Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do is simply turn it over to Dr. Jim Adams then, who knows the schedule. And brother, please come, take over.
Studied brevity was what Calvin spoke of, so maybe we can move along quickly. That's an important thing. What we'd like to do is look for just a few moments at some pictures and slides concerning the work there in Chile. Obed Rupertus, that's been under Cornerstone for some time, and we've spent a lot of time with him. They've gone through some very difficult times there, very painful, 3 disruptions in the church. I do believe that those who have been the disruptive ones are no longer part of that Reformed Baptist congregation, as they have renamed themselves. They're in Santiago, Chile, and Obed Rupertus has a letter there in your notebook that I would recommend you reading through that. He tells of how some have come to faith in Christ through the preaching that they have that's been by radio, and how that's going forth all over that area, even down in the southern part of Chile. And then just a word about southern Chile, that there has been that wonderful open door that's come there through the years, a group of about 60-some churches in the south of Chile that, from a very fundamentalist background, very fundamentalist, closed, isolated, and in a wonderful way, they opened up to us in a very, just in the providence of God, and how they have come to enjoy the expository preaching, and the doctrines of grace have grabbed hold of them. We have had some, they're so very conservative. I just suddenly thought of looking at my son David. We had a Sunday morning when there they were, all in their black suits. And you know, you come to that Sunday morning meeting so seriously for breakfast. I just remember everybody arrived, and David didn't even have a suit coat of any kind, or a sport coat or anything, and all he had was a black shirt. And so I wasn't sure how he was, you know, what they're going to think of him arriving. As you may know, he sometimes enjoys having fun, so he put a white napkin right through here. When he walked through the door, they were all just like, whoa. Anyway, they have loosened up with us through the years, and it's beautiful to see how there has been that opening up and the joy of having the doctrines of grace flood their hearts. And there really has been a wonderful thing that there hasn't been this opposition. There's been a reception, and we really do rejoice. And even after some of them really got into high doctrine and the excitement of that, we decided it was good to have the wives come to one of the conferences and present the relationships as husbands and wives and work with that area after they had been working with all this high doctrine. Southern Chile really is an amazing area, and most of them, 80% of them, are bivocational fishermen and working in different areas like that. And so it is an exciting thing to see the gospel entering there. Let's look at these slides of the church and the work of Obed Rupertus. He really does have a missionary heart of taking the gospel to other places besides seeing the church there in Santiago built up. Ministries in Chile. Let's see where we begin here. This is, of course, the Chilean flag. And we'll just keep on clicking through the next one. Yeah, if you could give us the next slide, go ahead. And really exciting thing, this picture, Obed and traveled on a regular basis on Sunday afternoon all the way down. It's about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half to this congregation. And a Peruvian man came to Chile when he was 21 years old and had this burden to see a church started there. And as through the years, he built a area onto his house. We had an ordination service after a year and a half of his being trained in the doctrines of grace and working with those things, and Obed going down on that regular basis. And then he bought, with his money, as he worked at night in the grapevines, he saved his money, bought a piece of property, got a big St. Bernard dog to protect the different things there, and they built this building, and you can go to the next one. I think it'll show it being further along. This is certainly the Iglesia Bautista de la Gracia, and here are some of the people that are part of that. Right in the center, front on, is Edwin Murga, and he's the pastor, Peruvian part of that community there. And there he is in the middle, and more of the people on a Sunday morning. And here's the church there in Santiago, and still with excitement of how they do need a new building come January, a new place to meet. And so we'd ask that you'd be praying concerning that. And there they are, actually teaching on the long wall, more Puritan in their practice there. So now we'd like to just move over to Argentina. And Argentina, as you know, has a new president, and there are many things that are in process. For instance, we haven't been able to import books there for, is it about 3 years? Quizás como 3 años que no hemos podido importar libros allá. ¿Cuántos años? Como 10 años. I guess he's saying it's been 10 years since they've really been able to import books. So what we've had to do is publish those books in Buenos Aires, print them there, and it's a very costly thing because we print lower amounts, etc., all those different kinds of things. But with the new president, there's change in the process of being able to import books, and a number of changes economically that we're hoping, as they will go through some very difficult times, that at that same time, I think it should be, in the long run, some real good changes that are taking place economically. And here's, if we could go ahead and present the video that Sam Masters has made up. He's in Córdoba, Argentina, and with a number of ministries that are going, and about a half a dozen new church plants that are going on.
Greetings from Córdoba, Argentina. I wish I could be there with you this week, but we're very excited to see what's happening. I don't want to go overboard, but I can't help think about the early days of the Baptist Missionary Society. It's wonderful to see a group moving forward based on Reformed Baptist principles and a desire to fulfill the Great Commission. We're praying that God will continue to bless all that's going on. I want to give you a little update on the congregations. In Cachi, the work goes on. Marcelo is discipling a number of people. Probably the most exciting news out of Cachi right now is that Marcelo is now doing a radio program on a weekly basis on the municipal radio station. We've been praying about getting our own radio license, and it just never worked out, and God has opened up this wonderful door, and his radio broadcast is being transmitted all up and down the valley where they're working, and so we're very excited about that. In La Rinconada, they're also discipling a number of people, working especially with young people, and construction on the auditorium, the multi-purpose building that they're working on, has gone along. It's about probably 3/4 of the way finished, and we hope that by early next year we'll be ready to get into that building. Malvinas, the congregation there continues to grow, both numerically and in grace. We're seeing maturity in some of the leaders, some of the men and the couples. And probably the biggest news out of Malvinas is that Roberto, the pastor, just recently graduated 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago he graduated from the seminary, and in December he's going to be ordained to the gospel ministry. At the beginning of the year they rented a storefront to begin meeting in, and they've already filled it up, and so one of the prayer requests there is we're going to need to find a new rent contract, and eventually, of course, in all of these places we're going to need to be able to find property to build on. Cachi has property, La Rinconada has property, but the ones around the city of Córdoba all need to purchase property. In Jesus Maria, we've seen growth, as I mentioned, And it's also been a difficult year for Alejandro and for Soledad. Soledad has been struggling with breast cancer, but thankfully she's come through a treatment and come through well and come out the other side. So they've been tried by fire, but the Lord has really worked in their lives this year. Earlier in the year, we'd asked prayer for the congregation in Saldan. There had been issues with the leadership there, and thankfully we've seen those issues kind of ironed out. And a member of our church in the city of Córdoba, has now been traveling out there and has taken over the leadership of that congregation. His name is Ariel Fisetti, and he's doing an excellent job. And we'd like to continue to ask you to pray for that congregation and for Ariel as he leads that group of people. In the city of Córdoba itself, the congregation continues to grow. We're really, the biggest problem we have is that the auditorium is full on Sundays, and we're not sure what the next step is. And so we'd like to ask prayer about that. Many of you will remember that Manuel Carbonell has been back now for a number of months, and he has taken over many pastoral responsibilities in that congregation, and he's doing very well. So we thank you for your prayers and support of Manuel Carbonell. For the seminary, we've seen the student enrollment grow, and if all goes well, we'll be opening a new study center in the city of Buenos Aires. We had a great theological conference this year. David Barceló came over from Spain. The focus of this year's conference was on biblical counseling. I think it had a great impact. We had attendees who came from as far away as Bolivia and Paraguay. We've also been able to finally wrap up a deal with Southern Seminary, and so we have an articulation agreement that will allow us to begin a master's program accredited by Southern Seminary here in Córdoba beginning in March of 2018. I think one of the things I'm most excited about is the fact that this year we're sending out our first foreign missionaries. Eva and Ernesto are two young people who have been students in our seminary. They were missionaries already in the city of Varanasi in India. They were sent out by a Pentecostal church, but they had had a change in their doctrine. They'd come around to the doctrines of grace, and that caused a division between them and their home church. Their home church cut them off. While they were still in Varanasi, they were living on about $200 a month. So over the last year, our church has been able to take up different offerings, but we weren't sure about taking them on for full-time support until we had a chance to know them a little better. Eva just recently had a baby, so she came back to Argentina, and they've been in our church for a while, and our elders have had the chance to interview them. We've had the chance to get to know them, and we're excited to say that we're now at the point of sending them out as our own missionaries. So they'll be heading back to the field in December with support raised from our church and other churches that we're friends with, and we're really excited about this step. So I want to close just by saying thank you. We appreciate your support and your ongoing prayers.
We have just a few moments here. We have just a few moments, and I thought maybe it'd be good to pause. Our dear brother Jorge Molina won't probably be back with us again for 3 or 4 years. And they've come all the way from Carlos Paz, Argentina. And I thought, as we're looking at the southern cone, praying for Sam Masters, praying for Obed Rupertus, that it might be good just to have maybe 5 minutes or so of questions if some of you would have. If Jorge could come up front and David could translate, I'll help with that. If you have some questions about Argentina or the work there with Jorge Molina there in Carlos Paz, or the work also it's only 45 minutes away from where Carlos Paz is, the work where Sam Masters is. And if David could help out in translating here, I think we can, if you can get right in there next to if you have any questions that you would have.
Si tienen preguntas para ti.
No
sobre eso.
La nación argentina tiene algo muy particular.
The Argentine nation has a peculiar thing.
Es como todo relacionado con el fútbol.
It's like everything that's related to football, to soccer.
Es muy nacionalista, es muy orgulloso de sus cosas.
It's very proud. Argentines are known as very proud of their nation and of their own everything that has to do with Argentine.
No entiende lo que el Papa dice ni lo que significa de lo que está haciendo. Solo le agrada que es argentino.
That people really don't even understand what the Pope is talking about or the changes that he's talking about. They just really love the fact that he's Argentine.
Entonces todo lo que el Papa dice y a dónde los va llevando no se dan cuenta.
So really everything that the Pope is talking about and where he's taking them, the direction he's taking the church, they don't really understand it. Pregunta si es más orgullo nacional que devoción al catolicismo romano.
Eh, Esencialmente, la Argentina es católico romano,
Essentially, Argentina is Roman Catholic.
pero hay un volcamiento hacia la religión católica romana porque el Papa es argentino. Y ellos se han adherido más a la religión católica romana y están siguiendo mucho más de cerca todo lo que la Iglesia Católica Romana expresa.
But there's a real resurgence of Roman Catholicism just because he's Argentine.
¿Qué tal?
Sí, está bien.
¿Está bien?
Si ese resurgimiento ha impactado a cristianos evangélicos de alguna forma, aún de manera sutil o de otra manera.
En algunos casos es muy abierta, hay un ecumenismo, hay cristianos que dejaron la esencia de la doctrina que profesaban seguir y se volcaron hacia el catolicismo. Porque
Yes, we've seen a real, sometimes within evangelicals, even an ecumenical spirit where they just kind of are, because he's Argentine, they just are open to his ideas and have turned towards Roman Catholicism again.
hay mucho, en este momento hay un ecumenismo que es todo placentero para la gente y eso les da a ellos una sensación de paz, pero como son ignorantes de lo que es la verdad del Evangelio al cual rechazan, están siendo guardados, guiados a la perdición.
Yeah, so there's just kind of a lazy or comfortable ecumenicalism and just kind of going along with what the Pope, but they don't really realize the level of lostness where he's leading everyone. Si podrías hablar un poco acerca del ministerio de la radio, cómo el Señor ha usado el ministerio de la radio.
En Argentina, la radio ha sido un elemento muy importante.
In Argentina, radio is a really important element.
Lo sigue siendo. Es por ello de que la congregación Monte de Luz sumó a su mayor cantidad de asistentes y miembros a través del mensaje de la radio.
And radio is still an important thing in Argentina, and that's why our church has gotten the most of its congregants from through connection with the radio program.
Es muy importante el programa de radio
So the program has really been important for us
porque llega a todo lugar, al ser una radio secular, llega a todo lugar.
especially since it's a secular radio station. It goes to everyone.
Oficina, autos o carro,
We've heard people listening to it in offices, in their cars,
talleres,
in their workshops.
en todo lugar.
¿Cuál es el estilo? ¿Qué formato usas? ¿La gente llama o tú predicas?
Esencialmente predicamos de una manera expositiva.
Essentially, it's expository preaching.
La gente se interesa por los temas que estamos tocando
And the people get interested in whatever topic I'm preaching on.
y llama por teléfono y hace preguntas.
And so they'll call in and they'll ask questions while I'm preaching.
Claro. Ok. Realmente me emociona mucho estar en este lugar, en esta ocasión.
Really, it's very moving for me to be able to be here on this special occasion in this place.
Ocasionalmente o naturalmente soy muy hablador, pero ahora me pongo nervioso.
I'm naturally very talkative, but for some reason I get nervous when I'm up here in front of you being translated.
Gracias, gracias, gracias. Yo quiero agradecer a todos ustedes
I want to thank all of you
por oraciones,
for your prayers,
por apoyos
for your support,
y por sobre todas las cosas por el amor de hermano para con nosotros.
and above all, really for your love as brothers and sisters for all of us.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
All right, next I get to introduce a man that, along with his family, has been sent out from our church here, GBCTaylors, and that is John Kortie. John has been in the church for longer than I have. He was here for 10 years, and then about, I believe it was 14 months ago, the Korties sold their home, a home that had been in Beth Anna's family for some time, sold that, moved to Arizona, and he's better at telling you about it than I am. But I'm excited for you to hear from this man. Please come and tell us what is going on in Arizona where you're working.
Do we have the handheld mic? It's great to be here. They want me up there? Okay. It's great to be here. It's a homecoming of sorts. I wish my wife could be here. I very much hold the same sentiment as Mark Hatfield, wishing that Cheryl was here. I definitely wish my wife was here. So, without any further ado, there's a picture of us in front of the church out in Arizona. A little town called 3 Points is where we live. We're missionaries to the Ta'ana-Atham Indian Reservation. Anybody that's about my age or older would know it as the Papago. Back in the mid-'80s, they changed it from Papago, which meant bean eater, to Ta'ana-Atham, which means desert dwellers or desert wanderers. So my wife, Beth Anna, and my daughter, Jane. I also happen to have my oldest daughter here today, Kendra. So I'm very glad that she could be here. Whoop. It's the blue part down there is the Atham Reservation. We live about 15 minutes off of the reservation. The reason why we did that, when the mission was founded back in 1979,
It was Beth Anna's dad came down from the Navajo reservation and decided not to put it on the reservation itself. The reason being that every year would have to be voted on whether or not they would get to stay. So they decided that they would rather have more stability, so that's why we are where we are. It's 15 minutes from the border of the reservation, but where we do most of the work on the reservation is a village called Sells. It's the capital of the reservation. Sells, when I can't say it in Otham, I've tried and I'm not very good at it, but when it's translated into Otham, basically means stuck little turtle. And it's interesting that that's it. And when I've talked to several of the men from out there, they have almost no hope, so they feel like stuck little turtles. It's a very, very telling about the reservation itself. And if you'll notice up here, some of the things that I have, there's a 74-mile border with Mexico that they have in common, but the reservation also goes into Mexico, which causes actually a lot of problems. And you'll also see a little blue area up there called Gila River. That's another part of the reservation, and also another little square down there that says San Javier. That's one of the oldest Catholic missions in Arizona. Matter of fact, it is the oldest Catholic mission in Arizona. This is a breakdown of the reservation itself. There's approximately 50 different villages. The area that it covers, to give you an idea, it's bigger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. We have exact opposite problem of what Mark Hatfield has. He barely has to go out his front door and has plenty of opportunities for witnessing. In our case, to get the cells from where we live, it's 45 minutes to an hour. That presents a little bit of problems as far as being able to get that out there on a minute's notice or anything like that. But the way our mission works, on Sundays we have church in our little mission compound, so to speak. On Sunday mornings and Sunday afternoons, we go out to the reservation, out to Cells, and we have a Bible club out there in a church. Mainly kids come there. We keep trying to get adults to come out. This summer we had 3 different cookouts where we provided the food, a very short sermon and testimony time, and just trying to get the adults to come, making sure that they understand they're welcome, not just their kids. One of the greatest problems with the reservation is it's a very socialist economy and leadership style. The parents don't feel like they have to be parents because they're taught from the time that they are born it's all about the tribe, not about the individual. So many times we'll go to pick up kids at their homes and we'll ask, do you need to tell your parents? No, they're drunk on the couch. Or no, they're watching football. That's fine, we can go. The first couple times that we went to pick up the kids, that just blew my mind, but now it's just a regular thing. When the kids come running up to the van, it's just the way it is. You know that they don't have to go tell their parents. And it's a very sad state of affairs, but it only gets worse. But great kids, absolutely great kids. I think I have some pictures in here from them, and some of them. Before I move on, I want to point out the chairman, Dr. Ned Norris. He just, if he hasn't made national news in the last day or two, he probably will. I think that the liberal media will catch up with this real quick. He basically said, since President-elect Trump was elected, that there's no way that they will ever build a wall going across his land. So I don't think he's necessarily in touch with reality, but who knows? We'll see. So I'm sure that the media will grab a hold of that. The flag there on the left, the reason why there are 11 feathers, there's 11 different sections to the Ta'ana O'odham Nation. Just some statistics. I won't bore you with them. If you want to hear them, we can go through them once the presentation is done. But keep this in mind, just some real simple things. Number one, the average education is between 3rd and 4th grade due to fetal alcohol syndrome. There's a kid that comes to the Bible club that's a sophomore in high school. If he were put in high school here, he would not be doing well at all. My youngest daughter, Jane, that was in the picture, is in the same grade. And her education compared to his education is night and day. He was brought up before the tribal council because he actually speaks the native language, which was almost a dead language. And he was allowed to give a presentation before the tribal council. In discipleship programs with him on Tuesday night that I have with him and a couple other men, he can barely read. But yet, he's a sophomore in high school, and he's one of the better educated ones. Okay? So keep that in mind. It's kind of hard to see, but you see the Babakivri Peak with a little red arrow to it? That's the very top of a mountain. And this concrete looks like a man standing right there. That's Iatoi. That's their god, their native god. Iatoi is nothing like our God in any way whatsoever. And that's one of the things that I'm definitely trying to teach. The reason being, if you don't go up there to the top of Babakivri Peak once a year, he'll play tricks on you all year. So he's a trickster God. He's not like our God. So it's one of the things that I'm fighting against, although it's not as prevalent as Catholicism. Some of the biggest challenges, drugs, illegal human smuggling, gangs. If you can read the thing, there's over 34 different gang affiliations on the reservation. That's because again, it's a socialist society. The kids need to feel a part of something, so they join gangs. Things have been getting extremely violent at times. It's not a safe place to be out on the reservation at night, especially if you are my color. But not just my color, even the people that live there. At times there have been roving gangs where they beat up people that were just walking down the street. So it's one of the things we have to take into consideration. Perfect example, on Tuesday night, Beth Anna went out to the reservation with Michaela to have a discipleship time with a woman that was led to Christ by her husband, who was saved in the jail ministry. And I asked her, I said, honey, I don't mind you going out there. Matter of fact, I wish you do, but please, please, when the sun starts to go down, think about heading home. And she did, and I thank her for that. Oh, wrong way. Cells, again, is the capital, but I promise you it's nothing like you've ever seen before as far as a capital city would go. Just a couple of pictures here. It is literally in the middle of the desert. Great place. I love it there. I love the people there. But you could look out your front door, and I wish I had a picture of it. I don't think I have it up there. But there's a picture out the front door of what we use as a church on Sunday nights, and there were 5 cattle in our front yard. It's all open range. Horses and cattle are 2 of their biggest industries, and honestly, they're not that big. Somebody always asks me, and so I'll tell this answer now. The United States government does not take care of them in any way. Their own government doesn't take care of them in any way other than giving them a one-time check when they turn 18 years old for $1,000. That's all they get, no more. There's a story, again, about the woman that Beth Anna's discipling. Her name is Vanessa. When she turned 18, got her check, and she went home that night, and all the lights in the house were off. She's walking down the hallway to her bedroom, and her mom and her sister jump her and beat the daylights out of her, trying to get her money. You starting to get the depravity and how bad things are? Okay, it gets worse. It gets a whole lot worse. I think I've told this story up in Brother Elliot's church. There was a 13-year-old girl that drank herself to death on the reservation. The way we found out, there was a girl who came to us on Sunday night in the Bible club, her cousin, and told us the story, and she's just all nonchalant about it. And she's like, it happens all the time. And so she just went about playing. She told us the story about her cousin dying and just goes about playing. Can you imagine one of your nieces, 13 years old, drinking herself to death and being okay with that? One of your cousins? That just blew my mind. On Tuesdays, I go into the jail and cells and have a preaching time. There's 6 different men's pods. And on that particular Tuesday that I went in there, I asked in every single pod, how do you people think that this is okay? A 13-year-old girl drinks herself to death, and you're okay with this? You need to change the way you're looking at life. You need to have hope in your life. You need to stop being that stuck little turtle and find out where your hope is, and your hope is found in Christ. Almost every single sermon that I preach in the jail now has the gospel message, because even since then, other things have happened that haven't been good. And obviously through the jail, I have new people coming every time. And I've heard somebody say something about a captive audience. I truly do have a captive audience. So it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see the way these people live their lives. You can't buy alcohol from any store on the reservation. So adults have to go off the reservation, buy it, and bring it back. A lot of times, in order to make money, who are they going to sell the alcohol to? They're going to sell it to kids. They don't care as long as they get their money. So their own families are contributing to their own depravity. It's honestly, it's a sad thing, but please don't think that these people are cold or anything like that. They're not. They're actually a very fun-loving people. Again, I love them. I love being around them. I love talking to them. They're great people, but they need hope. They need Christ. This is a picture from the Bible Club on Sunday nights. I don't know if it's kind of hard in here, but I'm up there holding a puppet, and that's my wife standing next to me. It's just a short little gospel presentation using puppets to try and get the kids to listen. Most of the kids know me as the Minion Man, because every Sunday when I go out there, I wear a t-shirt with a minion on it. So they know who I am as the Minion Man. It's a great thing. They come running up to me. It's almost like I have in my class, in Beth Anna's class, like 13 or 14 kids on a regular basis that are between 2 and 5 years old. I feel like grandpa. So it's a great time. It's an absolute great time. These kids need love. They need love. One of the great things that's going to be happening in the next couple of months, I have Robert Elliott's church and Kurt Aaron's church coming and to help with Christmas bag delivery in about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. They're going to help us with that and then help us with the building project. But one of the things that I'm most excited about with them coming is getting them out onto the reservation into some of these different villages, not just cells. So that way, these kids out there will see that there are other people out there who love them and care about them. They are starving for affection. They are starving for affection. It doesn't want to move now. There we go. That's my youngest daughter, Jane. She's 15 years old, just with some of the children from the Bible Club. As you can tell, they're fascinated because she's extremely white. And she has red hair. This is a picture of my wife and I in front of the Ta'anatham prison, or jail, whatever you wish to call it. They call it TODC. Again, I'll go in there on Tuesdays and we'll have a preaching ministry. We'll preach 6 times. If I go by myself, I'll preach 6 times, but that's rare. Normally at least one other person goes, so we'll divide it up evenly. We have up to 3 people who will go. So I could be preaching 2 or 3 times every Tuesday. And then after we get out of the jail ministry, I go to the house that we use as a church and have discipleship with several men. The family that I was talking about with the woman named Vanessa, on the upper left-hand side and the right-hand side, it's the same family. It's Greg and Vanessa. Greg was saved in the jail ministry, and we do truly believe that. However, he's diagnosed as bipolar, and that causes lots of issues for lots of different reasons. Originally, before he got thrown in jail, they were drug smugglers and human coyotes. And a coyote is somebody who smuggles human people across the border. They were never hurting for money, and they never got caught. But because of Greg being bipolar, something had happened with his family, and he pulled a rifle on somebody and pulled the trigger. Now, it didn't go off, but he still got thrown in jail for that. Now, the Ta'anatham jail system is not like the federal system. He spent 3 months in jail, and that's it. But once he got done there, the federal authorities came and picked him up, and now he's looking at least 7 years that he's going to be spending away from his family. But one of the great things about him, when he's on his meds, he absolutely loves the Lord, and he leads his family in Bible studies. He's doing exactly what we taught him to do. You need to be a husband. You need to be a father. You need to lead your family the way God tells you to lead your family by the Bible. And he did it. His wife didn't believe that he had changed when he was still in jail. But when he got out of jail and started leading his family the way that we had told him to do, she said, honey, I want what you have. I want to know Christ as my Savior. And he led her to the Lord. The bottom picture on the right is the day that they got baptized. That was about 3 weeks ago. And the kids that are standing there were dedicated to the church. So that way we help oversee them in any way that we can, help them in any way that we can. There have been times when we took it to heart, and they took it to heart when we said, if you need something, call us. Doesn't matter, 24 hours a day. They do it. And it's great. It's absolutely great. It's exhausting, but it's great because they took it seriously. They took it seriously. Since they've been baptized, it's been nothing but downhill. Last weekend, before I came here, Greg had been having issues all week long. He hadn't been taking his meds. I spent Sunday afternoon with him, but the day before, he went with his family to Tucson and rode in a pickup truck in the very back. Normally, he's the one driving. But he rode in the back. His wife and kids rode up front. And when I asked him, why did you do that? And he said, because I was thinking about just jumping out of the back of the truck. He was ready to commit suicide again. Please pray for them. Please pray for them. They need it. They need it. We need it. We need your help in prayer. Like, I can't even begin to emphasize how bad we need it. They need Christ. The Catholics have been on that reservation for 150 years or more and done nothing for them. Nothing. They have no hope without Christ. In every single village, there's a little Catholic chapel or a church, whatever you want to call it, but it's never used except for weddings and funerals. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I've also, Brother Morris from Riverside has been out there to see them as well. I took him out there, so he can attest to it as well. He can answer some questions, but they need Christ. As simple as it gets, they need Christ. They need people to go out there and show them love and what Christian fellowship is all about. Again, I keep trying to emphasize to these men, especially in the jail, that they need to lead their families to Christ. They need to know Christ themselves, and they need to take that to their families and their villages. Yes, I'm willing to go into their village and minister to them, but I keep telling them, I'm just a fat white guy. If I go into your village, the people aren't going to listen to me, but they'll listen to you. So when you come to Christ, you need to do what God has called you to do and disciple people, become disciple makers. Lead your villages to Christ. I definitely understand that this is not about me whatsoever. It's not about me. It's all about God's glory and leading these people to Him. I can't physically go out there and change anybody. I know Christ can, though, and that's what I teach them. What you're looking at here is the Christmas gift distribution. I'm probably just about out of time, but this is the Christmas gift distribution. It's absolutely my favorite thing that we do all year long. What we do for the people in the jail ministry, we get all their names of their kids and stuff like that, and we get bags ready to go out to the families, and we give them Christmas. What we do, obviously, you can see some grapefruit in some pictures there. Unfortunately, that's no longer happening. But you see the bags with the Christmas gifts. We'll give Christmas gifts to each of the kids in the family and also to the caregiver. Thanks to our church here this year, they did something spectacular that we did not expect. Thank you for that. They, for their VBS, raised money for us to, and what we ended up doing with it, I'll just tell you that, is buying the Jesus Storybook Bibles. So we bought 200 Jesus Storybook Bibles to put in these bags. Each family's going to get one. But in talking with Beth Anna, my wife, and also talking with Jim Adams, understanding that they only have an average third-grade education, they need the gospel simply. And that's one of the things the Jesus Storybook Bible does. That's actually what Beth Anna and I use to teach the 2 through the 5-year-olds. But that's what we're going to do with the Christmas gifts this year. Lots of wonderful times delivering those bags and seeing the faces. These are two families, one in Manager's Dam. That village from where we live is about 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's all the way across the reservation and then go due south to the Mexican border. It's less than a mile from the Mexican border. The house in the picture in the background is not their house. It's another house that we delivered to. But this family's house right here has windows, but no glass. It just has curtains covering the windows and dirt floors. I spent time in the Army down in Central America in Honduras, in a third world country. That's a third world country, in our country. Just a few years ago, they got electricity, but they still don't have running water. So they have access to water, so don't think I'm saying that. But they don't have running water in each of their homes. That's unheard of. But you can't see it. And the house in the background, take a guess at what they have on their roof. Satellite dish. They have TV, but they don't have running water. You think the priorities are a little bit messed up there? I know I do. The other family is just a great family from a different, they actually have one of the nicer houses at a different place. They actually had running water and windows and all that. 3 points. The town that we live in, the Border Patrol calls it Cocaine Alley. It's notorious for drug runners. It's notorious for illegals. Just last year, I had an illegal approach me wanting to charge his phone, and so that way he could call his person to come pick him up from Tucson. It was interesting watching the Border Patrol take him down. But it's just where we live. It's where we live. We don't feel unsafe at all where we live. It's just what we're dealing with. And honestly, we're okay with it because we're there serving the Lord. Just some pictures from our church. If I can get fast forward this. There we go. Just one of the things that we do is like a food bank. It's called Share. I can't get this. Can you go forward, please? I don't know why it's not. Okay. We're broken down into 3 different parts. We have Faith Baptist Mission, which deals with the Ta'ana Otham Reservation, plus then we also have Faith Baptist Church, which is what they're standing in front of, plus then we also have Faith Baptist Academy, which is a mission of the church. We only have this year 7 kids. 6 of them are from 4th grade on up and 1 in kindergarten. Great kids, a great time. But we only charged about $325 per student for a Christian education. And actually this year, before the school started, we sent out a request to people that know us for scholarships, because we live in obviously a very poor area. And it was great. 5 out of the 6 kids got their schooling paid for. The idea, the only people that can attend the attend the school are missionaries' kids or people that are regular attenders for the church itself. So we don't open it up to the reservation. It used to be, but we don't have the finances or the manpower to do that now, or realistically the equipment to do that now. One of the things that we absolutely love, and I'm so thankful for Jim Elliott's church and Kurt Aaron's church, and Steve Graham is also going to be coming all the way from Chicopee, Massachusetts. We want your visitors. We want your people who want to come on short-term trips, mission trips. You don't need a passport. You don't need language study. They speak English. You want to see what the mission field is like in real time, and live it day after day, send them to us. We want them. We want them. It's absolutely the biggest blessing in my life to be out there. I know I am exactly where God wants me to be, doing exactly what He wants me to do when He wants me to do it. I'm not, no offense, Mark, I'm not Mark Chansky. Here's what I mean by this. Here's what I mean by this. I'm a very simple guy. And God sent a very simple guy to a very simple people to proclaim the gospel. I can do that with all my heart. in front of them and let them see it lived out and what it means to love God and live for Him. That's what they need. That's what they need. And it's a wonderful, wonderful privilege. But these are just some of the people who have come out to see us. If this will work. Go back one more time. This right here, if you can see it, it's something called the maypole, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Chris Marley's brother and his wife came down to visit us a few months ago just to see what we were all about. And we have something called a maypole that's been there since my wife was a little girl. And they're playing on it like little kids, and they're adults, and they were having a great time. Again, we want your people to come see what it's all about. You are welcome there. Honestly, if you ever come to Tucson, come see us. We'd be happy to host you. One of my wife's, I'll say mine too, but one of my wife's greatest strengths is hospitality. Come see us. We'll be happy to feed you. We'll be happy to put you up. We'll be happy to show you around Tucson. We'll be happy to take you out to the reservation, and you'll see for yourself just how awesome it is out there, but also how much they need Christ. Some of the things you can pray for. There we go. First of all, it's strength to keep up with the pace. There isn't a day off. It is 7 days a week. But if we're going to be serious, when I tell these people that, hey, if you need something, call us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it wouldn't be right to turn the phone off. It wouldn't be. I need to live it out in front of them, and so does my wife, and so we do. That's why it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week sometime, most of the time. More opportunities for sharing the gospel. Right now, we go out to the reservation basically 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Sundays. I'd love to be able to get out there more. I would. I'd love to be able to get into each and every village to show my face, so that way they can see who I am. One of the blessings of being out there now when I am is my father-in-law founded the mission in '79. He's already laid the groundwork. And if they see me with him out in the villages, they'll say, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I know he's been faithful. Hopefully he'll be faithful too. I'll listen to him. So pray for us. Pray for opportunities to share the gospel. And pray that we'll also help keep the fruit that's already starting to grow and sprout to be able to help it to come to full maturity. That's something that's almost never heard of out there. Also, for me, I am actually in RBS now. I don't know where my dean is, but I'm in RBS right now having a great time, learning a lot. Mark Chansky was my very first professor. Had a great time in the class. Thank you. And Dr. Jim Adams and Trevor Johnson for missions class. It's a plug for RBS, actually. If you want to study more on how to be a pastor, I highly recommend RBS. And also that, quite honestly, as we've heard from just about each and every missionary here, that God will send more workers. Again, though, for us, you don't need to have a passport and you don't need to have foreign language training. So please, please pray for us. We need you, but more importantly, the Ta'ana Atham Nation needs you. Thank you.
Well, we have been so encouraged by the partnership that already exists with a lot of the regional churches, plus Steve Graham from up in Massachusetts, who have taken an interest in what the Korties are doing and have sent teams, have given financial gifts, have having John in to share the work in their church. I did want to mention that the Korties, this is a pretty fresh work that we've sent out from our church, and really the way that it's been financed is that they sold their home and used that money to move across the country and to sustain themselves during the launch time as John has studied and been mentored in the ministry. We're as a church able to support them at around $1,000 a month. They're not living on much more than that. This is an active need right now. We would be thrilled if anyone who heard this report would have an interest in possibly partnering, certainly for prayer, but also financially. The thing to do would be to talk to John directly. His support is handled through the church there. We send our support to them. So I wanted to give that plug. This is a faithful man who loves the Lord and is pouring his life out for Christ with those people. Well, Robert Elliott, you're here. There you are. One of the men that's taken an interest in what they're doing. We appreciate that partnership with you. Would you briefly, before we have our last report, pray for the work that they're doing? And would you also, I neglected to have Chile and Argentina prayed for. I'm sorry, Dr. Adams, for that. Would you mention that in your prayers as well? Thank you.
In 5 minutes, so we're going to see if I can pull that off. It's kind of an odd situation that we have. I didn't actually think until I was here to ask if I could present, because it is an odd situation. We have a missionary, but we don't need your financial support. We have a missionary who wants to be under Reformed Baptist Network, but he can't be under Reformed Baptist Network yet. So please be praying to that end. What I mean by all that is we have a chaplain that we support, who we love dearly. He has attached himself to Miller Valley Baptist Church, and we question his judgment for that, but we love him dearly for it. My family has actually been friends and close with James Gallion since long before he went into the Air Force as a chaplain. He was an SBC pastor that kind of lived a Jeremiah life where God sent him to Armenian SBC churches to preach the doctrines of grace and be kicked out after he had warned them that he was already a Calvinist before he came. He's been through a lot of long, hard roads, but we love him for his faithfulness to the ministry, for his faithfulness to the confession. He is currently under the umbrella of ARBCA and co-members with our church and another church. We were required to leave, by circumstances, to leave our previous association of ARBCA, and so we're trying to kind of balance our relationship with him and another church that is still under that umbrella so that he can maintain his chaplaincy. We want to get a chaplaincy program running here at RBNet, and as soon as that is established, our hope and prayer, as well as his hope and prayer, is to be able to bring him over to this. So please be praying that God would open doors for that to occur. Please be praying for James Gallion, who is on his way next month to Turkey for a year. He's leaving his wife and kids back in the United States because it is a fairly unstable environment over in Turkey, but it is a permanent change of station, so he'll be there for a full year. Please be praying for him in the last month that he is there. He has been through a very, very difficult year, especially in the last few months. He told me that the last service that he will be doing at his station will not be a Sunday morning preaching session, but it will be to perform the funeral for a professing believer who committed suicide. Suicides are at an alarming high in the field where he is. He's actually had to deal with 2 suicides this month, and this last one was particularly painful for him because he knew the family, had spent a fair amount of time with them. Now he's trying to minister to the wife and the children that are left behind. Please pray for him, that God would give him strength. He's a very gifted chaplain. He's very good at what he does. For those of you who know anything about military chaplaincy, it's a minefield because there are certain things that you're allowed to do. There are certain things that, given certain COs, you're kind of allowed to do, and there's a lot of things you're not allowed to do. But he's been able to draw young men in, and without pressing the gospel upon them, like many of us would be seen to be doing in our evangelism, he is able to get a young man to ask questions in ways that are permissible, and he's very gifted in what he does. So please pray for him, pray for his wife as she is left behind. This has been a very difficult season for her to watch her husband go, and pray for those whom he will be ministering to. Thank you.
Well, what a 3 days of missions reports. It's an amazing thing to have your heart full of the work that's going on and yet feel such a tug towards all that we need to do. And this is wonderful. If we can keep this focus in Reformed Baptist Network, we will have kept a good thing, to keep it focused on the mission worldwide. Well, we are going to go down and eat our last meal together for this conference. Before we go down, could I ask the pastor of Redeemer Church, I think it is, in Arden, North Carolina, Jeffrey Hudson, would you please pray the Lord's blessing on the food and also for Chaplain Gallion?